Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to take a look at the Magicka Dragonknight PvE build for Morrowind. So, I know it's kinda late, I'm kinda late with the build, but I tried to get Silk of the Sun. Well, I bought the set, I took it out of my mail and it disappeared. So I decided let's wait maybe a week or two, it should reappear in my inventory. Obviously contacted customer support, nothing, and it's still not in my inventory, so I decided to create the build with Burning Spellweave instead of Silks of the Sun. I will explain those two sets in a second. Overall, Magicka Dragonknight really strong this patch. They have really high single target and they actually also have good sustain. I will get to that later. So in the first part of the video, just gonna talk about the basics, all that kind of stuff, and in the second part I will show you off the rotation that you should aim for and what you can do to change up your sustain or resource management, because there's quite a few things you need to have set right to have good sustain on a Magicka Dragonknight. You're using the Thief Mundus Stone. I am a vampire. Now you don't necessarily need to be one, but I like the extra 10% Magicka recovery. Just make sure if you're in a dungeon or trial with fire damage, go get stage 1. Because in stage 1 you don't take any additional fire damage, which is very important. In terms of race, Dark Elf is top because it has 7% extra fire damage, max magic and all kind of stuff. Second choice, High Elf, then Breton. Difference between a High Elf and a Dark Elf is really small. I just prefer a High Elf because I also like the extra Magicka recovery, especially for PvP. They also have 10% max Magicka, so the difference is really small. Buff food wise, max health, max Magicka. You also can use the Witch Mother's Brew, which gives you more like Magicka recovery, a lot more. I will get into that later. And they're using the spell pots. Now I am aware you don't necessarily need the crit part of the potion because we have Inner Light and Flames of Oblivion, but it's the one that is easy accessible through guild store, so that's why I always use it. In terms of gear, so Silks of the Sun is technically the best set. I just use the Burning Spellweave like I said before. I don't have access to Silks of the Sun thanks to that weird bug. Now, Burning Spellweave, it's not far off, it's like 3 to 5% less damage. So if you have a golden Burning Spellweave, keep using this. They nerfed the proc chance, like it only has 15% now. It still has like a 60 to 65% uptime, because you have so many fire abilities. So it procs really fast, and it's still pretty strong. They slightly nerfed the spell damage count. Now, what's different with Silks of the Sun? So, when we look at Silks of the Sun, you see you have a health bonus. And then you have some other stuff, and then 400 spell damage to your fire abilities. Now those 400 spell damage can be buffed through like potions and all that kind of stuff. So it's really strong. If you calculate Burning Spellweave uptime like 525 times 0.6, something like that, then you will get less spell damage. Now, yes, you lose a max Magicka bonus or something because Burning Spellweave doesn't have a max health bonus. Now, there is a few things. You can run a 5-1-1 setup. I recommend running Groftar. You also could run Valkin. It's also a really strong set. Grofgar still has slightly more damage, especially because the one piece bonus is a Magicka bonus. And Magicka equals 1 spell damage, more or less. Now, depending on how good your sustain is, you can run 6-1 or 7 light even, if you want to. However, 5-1-1 should be possible. It especially helps because you have really high max health then, compared to a 7 light setup, and you also do have more spell resistance, physical resistance with a 5-1-1 setup. Obviously through Undaunted you need this 6% more max resources, so it's definitely worth running this. I'm just saying, if you don't have sustain, you can try 6 light, 1 heavy or 7 light. because the more light pieces you do have, the more cost reduction you have. That's it about those two sets. Both are on my website. Well, I have Seals of the Sun there, so you can go check it out. I will put the link into the description. Make sure to subscribe. I will keep updating all my build videos for upcoming DLCs. Moondancer jewelry. Now here I have 3 spell damage glyphs. If you feel you don't have enough sustain, you could use a Magicka recovery glyph or a cost reduction. See, need to test things out. So we have Inferno stuff and the lightning stuff. Do you need a Maelstrom stuff here? If you don't use poisons, not necessarily. You could run 4 Moondancer pieces, like with a Moondancer stuff here. But I have set it up so I have Blockade of Fire on my front bar, so I kinda want this here. So you could also run it on the back bar. It's just, it only makes sense to run 2 Maelstrom weapons if you don't have anything else. If you don't have a Maelstrom weapons, then the next best choice is Moondancer, obviously. There is a lot of things possible. You can find all the explanation on my website. Now I run those 2. So basically, well, if you don't have Maelstrom weapons, you can use a randoms, master, or like I said, Moondancer. Or infallible either is also possible if you have info. Then, why do we have Inferno and the shock stuff? Basically, when we look at our skills, on our back bar we have the shock stuff, and on our front bar we have the fire stuff. The reason why we have a shock stuff is simply for the heavy attacks. On trash fights, you want to do heavy attacks. Heavy attacks are really insanely strong. Where is it? Here. Shock heavy attacks damage nearby enemies for 138% of the damage done. That's insane. It has like a 4 or 5 meter radius. It's basically the things, everybody's using this. Nobody's using impulse anymore. On top of that, you see lightning stuff increases your damage done with AoE effects by 8%, and flame stuff increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%. So when we have all our AoE abilities on the ground, they also do 8% more damage on top of the shock heavy attacks. And fire stuff, here we have a lot of single target abilities, burning embers, the engulfing flames, because it applies to the enemy. If I remember correctly, it also counts as single target. And this probably too, I'm not... Also the flame lash is very important. So overall you will get more DPS if you have a flame stuff front and the shock stuff back bar. Bit about the gear, it's kind of confusing, I do know, there's a lot of possibilities. 75 Thaumaturge. The reason why we have 75 here is because of Exploiter. You do 10% more damage to off-balanced enemies. This is very important. I know this is not like on the jump point. If you want, you could invest a few more to get to 24%. Don't think it's worth it. 20 Mastered Arms, 3 Staff Expert, and then 56 Elfborn, 56 Elemental Expert. Now here, very important. On my website you also can find jump points where I explain what it is if you don't know. Spell Erosion. Increases your spell penetration by X amount. Now this is very important. You always want to make sure to be at the cap. And that depends what your group runs. So each boss has 18.2k spell resistance. You have Major Breach, which gives like 5.3k penetration. You have Sharpened, another 5.2 penetration. Tanks have Crush enchantments, another 2k. Then you have like Light Armor. It's another 4.884k. And all kind of stuff. So you need to decide, are you at the cap yet? If yes, don't invest points here. If you're not at the cap, maybe make sure to have like 2k points in spell erosion. Very important. That's what you need to decide for yourself. Most of our people at the moment have like 20 points in spell erosion because they are not close. We don't use Alcast anymore, so they just put like 20 points into spell erosion. Now here It kinda depends, like it doesn't matter that much. Up for jump points. When you really want to hop on the jump points, now 12.8 tenacity. If you are focused on heavy attacks, make sure to have more points here. If you focus more on light attacks, Magicka recovery. Then the rest I usually just put in the Warlord, because breaking free is also important. Especially in the new trial like Halls of Fabrication, you get stunned a lot. Now here usually 49, 49, 48. That's like, it's the same setup all the time. Because you see, Hardy, the cap is at 15%, and with 49 you already get 11%. So it's a lot. Same with thick skinned. It goes to 25. With 48 points you already gain 18. It's really nice. Then we usually have 3 here and 61 here. This Ironclad is new. Reduces damage taken against direct damage attacks by 21%. Really nice. This is like, I run this setup on every character, I think. Okay, that's it about the CP. You can also find it on my website. In terms of skills, so what is the key aspect? How do or why do Magicka DKs sustain so well? It's because of Flame Lash. You see, previously we used Molten Whip, now we use Flame Lash. If you strike an enemy that is immobile or stunned, you set them off balanced. You can only set an enemy off balanced once every 5 seconds. So that's the first part. Doesn't really matter because we have shock abilities that proc concussion from Magicka Zorks in trials. And then we have blockade of shock from healers or Magicka Zorks, which proc off balanced. But now, the second text. When you target the off balanced enemy, this ability changes into Power Lash. Important part is here. It's gonna be free, okay? The ability is not gonna cost anything at all. That's usually how they sustain. To showcase you that, let me actually see. It should proc on this dude. Hope it doesn't die. Like when we drop the trap, you see now I do this ninja whip. Ninja whip DK. That's how we call it. You see, it had a special looking, like the Flame Lash changed into Power Lash, and you see this with the 2 eyes. Doesn't cost any Magicka. If you have a lot of off balanced on the bosses, it will constantly proc. You're gonna be a Ninja Knight, and you're gonna be always turning around, always doing stuff. And that's mostly how they sustain. Okay, this is the most important part. You need Flame Lash and you need off balance. If there is no off balance on the enemy, this does not work. Blockade of Fire is on the front bar because we use a shock stuff on the back bar, so we can't have it here. Burning Embers, your single target dot, really strong, and it heals for crazy amount. Highest amount I got healed for was like 200k. Engulfing Flames is very important. Affected enemies take 10% more damage from all fire damage attacks. And now here, this counts for the whole group. Like the whole group gets benefits from the 10% extra fire damage. Inner Light, 5% more Magicka, standard here. Backbar Eruption, this is another AoE ability. Arming Trap, procs minor force. Now here, careful, you don't have a lot of stamina, and if you already need to block and break free a lot, you might want to use something else here. In the new trial, what I usually prefer is like volatile armor. Because first off, it gives 5.3k spell and physical resistance. Really strong. Like people think, oh, well, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it saves you a lot, believe me. It's a lot of extra damage mitigation. So you sit at 20k spell res and a 15k physical resistance. Why do you have so more spell resistance and physical resistance? It's because Lexi DK has this here. You get another 3.3k spell resistance. They take way less incoming damage than other setups. If you run, you have this anyway, but if you use volatile armor as well, then yeah. And volatile armor, it deals decent damage. It's like 1k to 1.5k DPS. It's not that bad. But actually, if you're new to House of Fabrication, definitely use this. I even use this on my stem DK, you barely get any damage. Harness Magicka, you need this, a shield is necessary. If you don't run a shield, you will die. It bolsters damage. It's the most effective way to avoid deaths in Elder Scrolls Online. 14k shield. It's not gonna kill you, like you're not gonna die if you know when. Another in the light and Flames of Oblivion. It's also really strong. There's a lot of damage, so you need this. And then we have Thunderous Rage. We don't necessarily use this, but as you know from previous Destruction Staff ability, this here, the Flame Staff and the Lightning Staff only get increased damage, while you have a Destruction Staff ability slotted. We have this Destruction Staff ability here, and Blockade of Fire here. If you run this on the back bar, you need to change the ultis, otherwise you will not have any Destruction Staff ability on the front bar, and then you don't get the bonus. This is very important. A lot of people forget this. You need to have a Destruction Staff ability slotted, otherwise you're not gonna get the extra damage. If you want to run Trap, you can do it like this. You don't necessarily need the extra inner light, because as long as you have it on the front bar, it's totally fine. Because we are not a lot of times on the back bar. As you can see, all abilities that are on the back bar have a long duration. 18 seconds, this is like 12 seconds, something like that. 20 seconds, 15 seconds. So we only swap to the back bar every second rotation, which is nice. So we don't need to like bar swap a lot. This is actually important if you have a higher ping. That's it about the setup. Now let's just quickly talk about how you can sustain better, or what you can do to change it up. Like I said, Flame Lash is your #1 thing. Technically, if you have enough off balance on the enemy, this will be enough. If not, you always can do like a heavy attack every 1 to 2 rotations. You also do I have Drain Magicka poisons? Now this here, they are really strong. They restore 238 magic every second, so that's a lot. However, they're quite expensive, and they suppress the enchantment. So if you have 2 Maelstrom weapons, make sure to use it on the back bar, because Blockade of Fire with Maelstrom weapon, you see your light attacks and heavy attacks do 1348 more damage. That's very important. So you can't use it on this, because if we I will just use one now, it doesn't matter which one. You will suppress Crushing Wall enchantment, okay? So it's important that you use it on the back bar. And now the good thing that you need to know, you will not have less spell damage, only the extra light and heavy attack damage gets taken away. The 189 spell damage stays on you. Now on my fire stuff, you see 2175 shock stuff with the poison, 2175. It's still there, it just doesn't show. Thank you, Sauce. Okay. That's another thing. Then you also could run the Witch Mother's Brew. Now, if you chose to run the Witch Mother's Brew, it's very important that you look at your health. Gonna be kinda low. 15.1k, and the magic also dropped, but you got quite a lot of magic recovery. Probably the most efficient way, and with this magic recovery combined with the power lash, you're definitely not gonna run out of Magicka. What can you do to get more health? I already run a 5-1-1 setup, but what you can do is, let me check if I have Valkin here. If you have Valkin, you see it gives you a health bonus. which will boost you to like 16.2k max health. That's nice. If a tank wears 7 armor, you will be at 17.5k. So that's really, really good. Just something to consider. Maybe even 18k. Yes, you will lose a little bit Magicka, but doesn't matter. Valkin also does quite a lot of damage. Like, it almost does the same amount of damage as Groftar. But like I said, if you chose to run Valkin, the 1-piece bonus is a health bonus, so you will lose the 1-piece Magicka bonus from Groftar. But you need at least 16.2k health anyway. Better even 17k to actually not always die. So when you just look at the dot timers, before we engage we use obviously this and Flames of Oblivion, then we drop the trap, rearming trap, weapon swap, blockade, engulfing, burning embers and whip. Always a light attack between each ability. After 8 seconds you do the same thing again, blockade, engulfing, embers. 2-3 seconds before eruption runs out, you swap to the back bar, reapply all that stuff, then start your rotation again fresh. This is a pretty simple rotation. Yes, you do need dot trackers, or you just can count down to 8 or something like that, or like just look at your visual cues because you see when the blockade is gone. That way we always ensure we keep up all our abilities, and it's really simple. Every time you know, okay, there's only 3 seconds left on my eruption, so you swap to your back bar, reapply all that stuff, and you do a light attack between each ability. So you know, okay, I have to place eruption. When I place eruption, I also have to place rearming trap, I also have to place volatile armor, I also have to place Flames of Oblivion. Then you go to the front bar again. Same thing here. Oh, blockade literally runs out. When we come to the front bar, which should be the case, use blockade, use engulfing, use burning embers, whip. Till blockade runs out. The moment blockade runs out, use blockade, use engulfing, use burning, whip. 3 seconds before eruption runs out, you swap to the back bar, you drop all that other stuff, and voila. Let me just show you how this looks in quick succession, more or less. This, then I just go in, drop all this stuff here. I'm just tracking blockade of fire. Now it almost runs out, so I reapply it. I reapply engulfing, burning. The moment blockade or eruption reached 3 seconds, I go to the back bar, trap, all the other abilities, front bar. And more or less the moment blockade runs out, you reapply it again. Then same thing, just keep going. Blockade runs out, you use it again, engulfing flames, embers. 3 seconds before blockade runs out, you go to your back bar, reapply all this stuff, and then blockade again. This is kind of a really simple rotation. Yes, we do, like, burning embers and engulfing flames do have a 10 seconds duration. However, because blockade has 8 seconds and it's one of our strongest abilities, I simply just reapply the other stuff when I reapply blockade of fire. So all I have to do is keep track of blockade of fire. If you want a more advanced rotation, yes, you could let those run out and then reapply those individually, but I'd rather have you look what happens around you and have an easier rotation so you don't die, so you actually can see what happens around you. You need awareness, situational awareness. I hope kind of you understood how the rotation goes. Like I said, on PC you can easily track blockade. On console, I think your best bet is burning embers because you can apply it to the boss. Now, on my website I have a DPS test from the PTS actually, where I use another rotation, like it's It's a little bit more difficult, but once you know how to, then it should be not the problem. The bars are slightly different. And like I said, like you just need to make sure to have the structure stuff ability on each bar. Otherwise it could buy 8% extra damage. And make sure to have a Maelstrom stuff on the bar where you use Blockade of Fire. Just saying. In the end, it's up to you how you set up your bars. This is just the usual kind of good setup, because we only need to go to the back bar every 16 seconds, and then we have the front bar. Easy peasy. Kinda hope this helped a little bit. If you do have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe. I will definitely do more videos about this kind of subject. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Cheers.